The first draft of One Last Monster is fascinating for me to revisit because it shows exactly how much life experience matters when you're trying to find your story's theme. I began developing the idea around 2012, late 2012 or 2013, right after finishing my first animated short, Fighting Spirits. That film taught me a lot technically, but it lacked something crucial. It didn't mean anything. And so for my next project, I wanted to build a story that wasn't just pretty, I wanted it to say something. At the time, the film that became One Last Monster was called Fall Into Tomorrow. That was the working title. It was about a girl searching for paradise. At the time, I was listening pretty heavily to Coldplay's Paradise, which is a classic song, and the name of the character was Sally, inspired by another classic by Oasis. I knew that I wanted a monster, an Asian-inspired world, taking after Final Fantasy. I knew I wanted these elements in my film, but I didn't have quite a spine for the story yet, beyond knowing the vague concept. And that's a mistake a lot of writers make early on. We start with an aesthetic look and world building before we know what we're actually trying to say. What I didn't realize then was that the idea I needed was already in my life. You see, when I started writing Fall Into Tomorrow, things were great, but I had just survived 2 really difficult years. Jobless after graduating college in 2010, rejected from a full-time job at Pixar, even when I had interned there, completely unsure if I belonged in animation even, and all sorts of other things post-college, just trying to figure out young adulthood. Those years felt like floating through a storm in total darkness. And yet, somehow by the grace of God, I came through it. I found a new community in New York City, a new job, and a new perspective on everything. And so I wrote out everything that happened to me during that time because it was such a significant experience for me. I knew I had to process it. I knew it had to inspire something in my art. So I wrote everything that happened to me step by step from 2010 to 2013, and I asked myself, why did I change? What happened between point A and point B? And then I realized, looking at everything that had happened, I only survived because I got out of my comfort zone. I tried new things. I tried looking for solutions. I grew a lot. I became uncomfortable, and that was a big theme. Life forced me to get out of what I knew was familiar and safe. That's what a lot of great stories are about. Characters who do what they don't want to do and grow because of it. And so from that idea that comfort can destroy us, that became the foundation of One Last Monster. It gave the story its moral DNA. Even the alien character in the film Didus exists to tell that truth. And later I saw how that same idea ran through Korean history as a Korean American. How the Joseon dynasty walled itself off from the rest of the world to preserve comfort and ended up isolated. That parallel gave the fantasy of Fall Into Tomorrow a cultural spine. And that is when Fall Into Tomorrow became One Last Monster, inspired by Korean history. So if you're developing a story, whether it's a short film, a novel, or webtoon, start by asking yourself perhaps, what is the hardest season of my life that taught me something true? What is the comfort zone my character needs to escape? And how can that truth shape the world they live in? That is one way to build a story that has both depth and direction, because sometimes you can't find your story until you've lived it first. Thanks for checking the video out. If you want to support the work I'm doing with One Last Monster on this channel, please check out our Patreon below and consider becoming a member. And I'll see you later. Have a great day. Thank you.